The Lorraine Motel is a favorite place for Negro leaders to stay while in Memphis. It's a very nice new modern motel. He was on the second floor balcony, standing exactly where these two officers are, talking with some of his aides at the time of the shooting.
But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land.
Welcome to the news at noon. I'm Lauren Casey. 50 years ago, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis set off riots all across the country, but it did not do so in Indianapolis. Today, a ceremony paid tribute to that event that most people say helped to keep the peace in our city. And RTV6's Nicole Griffin was there. She joins us live from the Martin Luther King Jr. Park here in Indianapolis, where that ceremony just concluded. Nicole.
Lauren, today is a day to commemorate a defining night in American history, the day that Senator Robert Kennedy stood here in this park in Indianapolis and delivered the news to thousands of people that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated, a speech that is credited with keeping the peace here in our city when the rest of the country was rioting. On the 50th anniversary today, we are being reminded to keep Dr. King and Senator Kennedy's dream alive. Governor Holcomb, Mayor Hogsett, and Representative John Lewis among those who spoke to a very diverse crowd this morning, reminding everyone that our community heard the message of hope and compassion that night. In a strong speech today, Representative Lewis said we have an obligation to speak up when we see something that is wrong. He recalled being here in Indianapolis 50 years ago when Senator Kennedy gave that historic speech and says this is the first time he's been back.
And to be here in the park at night, April 4th, 1968, when he announced that Robert Kennedy, just as Robert Kennedy announcing that Dr. King had been assassinated, I cried. I lost a friend. I lost a big brother. I lost my leader.
Representative Lewis says that if Dr. King and Senator Kennedy were here today, they would say love each other. Governor Holcomb reminding us today that there's much more that brings us together than what divides us. So a very, very strong ceremony out here today as we look back at 50 years of that very important speech that made a difference in Indiana's history. Reporting live, Nicole Griffin, RTV6.
Nicole, thank you. And today's ceremony comes as Kennedy King Park receives a designation as a national commemorative site. Yesterday, President Trump signed a bill into law to officially give that recognition to the park. The bill was a bipartisan effort of Indiana's congressional delegation. It also establishes the park as a part of the African American Civil Rights Network. The network was created by a law passed back in January to preserve several civil rights historic sites. Now, among those in town for today's ceremony was Robert Kennedy's daughter, Carrie Kennedy. She told us that she wanted to return to the site where her father's words helped to keep the peace following an enormous tragedy. She says the words he chose were what he practiced every day.
My father said continuously, and that night, we can heal the divisions in our country between black and white, young and old, and rich and poor. And our country has really never been as divided as it was 50 years ago. So I think that it's worthwhile listening to those words again.
Kennedy also attended a screening of a documentary called A Ripple of Hope, the film about her father's speech in the hours after Dr. King's death.